What's up, everyone? Chance here with Missouri Outdoors. It is November 9th and it's about 6:40 a.m. We're back out in the deer woods trying to get a shot at stickers this morning before rifle season opens up. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 more days to get this done, so we gotta get on the ball and try to get it accomplished. Looks like it's gonna be a pretty calm, quiet morning. But yeah, it's the first morning we get to film with our new camera. I took it out last night, but we never ended up seeing anything. However, I did get to test it, and it's gonna make a world of difference in our hunting videos. Like, I can zoom in quite a ways, and it's still really clear picture. So hopefully no more of that grainy images out there at about 200-300 yards. Hopefully we got that problem solved. But alright guys, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and go down below and leave me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. But we're gonna get started. I'm gonna go ahead and sit down and get quiet, and we're gonna sit here a while and see what happens. But alright guys, stay tuned. It wasn't long after daylight and we had this nice little, I'm not sure if he was a 7 or an 8 pointer, but he comes out, and I mean quickly. Like, I heard him coming, looked up, and he was already there. But he comes out and hits a scrape, and I mean really just works it over real good. It was pretty cool to get that awesome footage immediately after taking my camera out for its first trip. I know that's not very zoomed in. I was still learning, and since then I've figured out a few ways to get it to zoom on in a lot further than that. And I also bought another lens, so I can definitely zoom in a lot further than you can see there. But yeah, he comes out, hits that scrape, and eventually just turns and goes down the fence line and crosses into the woods, crosses by me again at about 100 and some odd yards, and walks down the holler up the other ridge and away out of sight. About an hour after we seen that last buck finally disappear, I caught sight of another buck, the one closest to you, you see there, coming in to the left of me up from the holler. That would be the really wide buck we had come out in front of us September 17th that came out just ahead of stickers. But I ended up getting on that deer just in time to notice that there was another buck already laying there. And it didn't really dawn on me that that was a different deer until I watched him stand up, because I was trying to watch him and focus on him with this new camera. So it never occurred to me that I thought the buck that was laying there was the other buck, but turns out there was two. And the wide buck ends up going down, hanging out for a little while, and then he either bedded down or went back up the hill. But this other buck circles around behind me and comes into about 75 yards, and check out what he does. I think this is the smaller buck, but there's a deer kind of coming this way right there. You can see center of the frame. As you can see, he comes up and beds right back down. Apparently he just wanted to get out of the way of the other bucks where they were fighting and doing their rutting at. But he ends up laying there for like an hour and 15 minutes. And I was sitting there kind of keeping an eye on him, and I looked to the left, and it all happened so quick. I started to film it with my phone because I knew I didn't have time to stand up, and it became apparent very quickly that I needed to get stood up. All of a sudden, from outer right field, I noticed the wide buck coming back, and as soon as he turned and looked behind him, I kind of knew. And there he steps out, and when I saw how puffed up he was, I knew he was a big mature buck. Before I could get stood up and get the new camera on, he had already pushed the wide buck up and over the hill and circled back behind me and stood the small 7 or 8 pointer up and was trying to push him on out. Well, I tried to get the best footage I could of him, and I got good enough to tell you now it's the big 8 pointer. And this was the hunt I kind of realized if he ever actually gave me a good shot, I'd probably go ahead and take him, because he's a pretty good buck. I'm going to say probably 135, 140. He's definitely a really, really nice buck. But he ends up walking the little 7 or 8 pointer off, and it isn't very long. He comes back. Now this little clip is actually filmed with my phone. I had been trying to film him there for a few minutes. He came in and stood in that same spot for, no kidding, like 35 minutes. I had grunted at him when he was walking that other buck off, and he came back and stood there and stared at the hillside I'm on for about 30-35 minutes, just watching for movement of the buck that grunted at him. And, well, obviously there was no buck grunting at him because it was me. And after a while, he does make a move to leave, and it doesn't take him very long to get on out of there. But that wouldn't be the last time we saw him this day. Not too long after the big 8 left, we had this other buck come in behind us. I'm not sure which one he is 100%. It may have been the same buck that was there early that morning, or there's another buck in there that looks a lot alike him, so it might have been the other buck. But there's nothing wrong with him. I mean, he's a really, really nice buck. I just think he's still pretty young. Alright guys, there's a doe right there, and there's a big buck pushing her. I'm not sure which buck it is, but I could hear him grunting and I could hear him running, and then all of a sudden I saw the doe, and then I could see the big buck too. However, I can't see him anymore since I stood up. And that doe is just standing right there. Oh, there he is. There he is. As you're about to see, I'm still pretty new at this camera, and I have quite a few problems with it in the beginning, like the autofocus wanting to focus on trees that are 30 yards away instead of the deer that are 70 yards away. However, I have figured out if I just use manual focus when I'm in the woods, I can focus on the deer instead of the trees. So let's go ahead and get to a clip where we can see him a lot more clearer and out in the open. I think that's a big 8. If you can't tell, I ended up leaving and going home to get my new lens I had ordered. And as you can tell, it definitely makes a difference on zooming in on deer at a distance. Man, that's a dandy of a buck. The funny thing is, he runs the doe all the way up to me, basically. Well, about 50-60 yards, and then slows down and just starts feeding. I found it weird that he ran the doe all the way up there just to stop and start eating acorns. They both end up sticking around for quite a while. The buck basically just hangs out right in that general location up until he finally leaves at the end. But I got some pretty good footage, at least I thought, for, the first night filming actual deer in the woods. It was pretty complicated, I'm not gonna lie, especially with the added pressure of wanting to try to get a shot at this deer. It didn't take me very long to decide that if he gave me a good shot, I would more than likely take it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this deer. I do think he's only 3.5, so I'd be excited to see him at 4.5 or 5. That's a pretty good buck, y'all. I know this sounds crazy, but I just called my dad and had him run over to the neighbors, and he's gonna let me know if, well, the deal is, I don't know if the neighbor has already shot stickers yet. I ain't went and talked to him, so I sent Dad over there to find out. And if he honks the horn on his truck, which I should be able to hear, it's only like half a mile away, but if he honks that horn, it means Stickers is still alive. And if so, I'm not going to shoot this deer. However, if I don't hear a horn honk in the next 30 minutes, and this deer finally does come over here and give me a shot before dark, we gonna shoot that boy. However, I don't really see him coming this way because I'm pretty sure his doe is on the other side of him. So, I bet he don't want to leave her. There's just so much brush in the way I couldn't get a shot through there if I wanted to. Unfortunately, the doe got on the other side of him and she started to go towards the alfalfa field on the neighbor to feed before dark. And it didn't take him very long. He turned and started walking right towards her. So, there he went. But unfortunately, that was the last deer we would end up seeing that evening. So, better luck next time, I guess. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave me a like and hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. But alright, guys, have a good one.